You wake up tired, you check your phone, you already have a list of things to do before the sun is even fully up. Somewhere in your head is a quiet, exhausting belief that this is just how humans live. That struggle is the default setting. That your ancestors worked even harder than you do every single day just to stay alive. But the real answer is far stranger. For most of human history, a full day of survival took about 4 hours. Not 12, not 16, 4. And what your ancestors did with the rest of their time might explain something broken in the way you live right now. Start with the image most people carry around. A caveman, hunched, exhausted, dragging a spear through the mud from sunrise to sunset, one bad day away from starvation. It feels true. It feels obvious even. Early life must have been brutal, relentless, a constant fight against nature. That image has a name in anthropology. It is called the Hobbesian view of prehistory, after the philosopher Thomas Hobbes, who described early human life as nasty, brutish, and short. For centuries, that phrase shaped how people imagined the past. But when researchers actually went and lived alongside modern hunter-gatherer societies, the ones whose lifestyles most closely resemble our ancestors, they found something that didn't fit the story at all. In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee spent time among the Juhuansi-San people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the harshest environments on Earth. He expected to find people locked in a desperate daily hunt for food. Instead, he tracked their time and found that adults spent an average of about 15 to 20 hours a week on subsistence activities. Hunting, gathering, preparing food. That's it. The rest of the week was leisure, storytelling, rest, social visiting, naps in the shade. 15 hours in one of the least hospitable landscapes on the planet was enough to feed an entire community. Why would this be true? Doesn't more effort always mean more food, more safety, more chance of survival? Not necessarily. Anthropologist Marshall Solins looked at data like Lee's and proposed something that flipped the whole assumption on its head. He called hunter-gatherer societies the original affluent society. Not affluent because they had more possessions. They had almost none. Affluent because their wants were small, and their environment, when treated with the right knowledge, met those wants easily. You don't need abundance to feel wealthy. You need your needs to be met with room to spare. That's a definition of wealth almost nobody uses today. This is where the story gets uncomfortable because it means something did shift. Somewhere between roaming bands foraging 15 hours a week and you checking a work email at 11 at night, humans took on more labor, not less. And it didn't happen when we got weaker or dumber. It happened when we got settled. Around 12,000 years ago, agriculture began to spread across human populations. Farming meant more food per acre of land, which meant more people could be supported in one place. It sounds like an upgrade. In some ways, it was. But something else came with it, something economist and anthropologist James Sussman has written about in detail. Farming tied people to the land in a way foraging never did. A hunter-gatherer who had a bad week could walk somewhere else. A farmer with a failed crop could not simply move a field of wheat. Farming created surplus, and surplus created something foraging bands rarely needed: ownership, storage, debt, hierarchy. Once there is a stored surplus, someone has to guard it. Once there is guarding, there is a person who guards more and a person who guards less. Once there is more and less, there is status. Anthropologists have found that hunter-gatherer societies tend to be strikingly egalitarian, actively resisting anyone who tries to accumulate too much power or too many resources. Sussman describes this as a kind of built-in leveling mechanism, informal but enforced through mockery, gossip, or simply refusing to cooperate with anyone acting too much like a chief. Farming slowly eroded that leveling. Surplus needed defenders. Defenders became leaders. Leaders became rulers. And the 4-hour workday quietly disappeared into fields, taxes, and hierarchies that needed constant tending. So the caveman with the spear, exhausted and starving, he's mostly a myth built backward from how hard we work now, not evidence of how hard early humans actually worked. But there's a second myth hiding underneath the first one, and it's about what work even meant. In modern life, work and leisure are opposites. You clock in, You clock out. One is obligation, the other is freedom. For most of human history, that line barely existed. Gathering food involved walking, talking, teaching children, tracking animals, telling stories about where the herds moved last season. Anthropologist Sarah Blaffer-Hrdy has spent decades studying what she calls cooperative breeding in early human groups, the idea that children were raised not by a single set of parents, but by a wide network of relatives, friends, and alamothers who shared the load. Childcare, food gathering, and social bonding weren't separate categories of time. They were the same afternoon. That's the part your modern brain has trouble holding on to. Not that ancient life was easy, it wasn't. Disease, infant mortality, and unpredictable environments made it genuinely dangerous in ways modern life mostly isn't. But the danger wasn't constant labor. The danger was risk, not workload. Once the basic 4 or so hours of subsistence work was done, the rest of the day belonged to the group, and the group spent it together. Here's the twist that should sit uncomfortably with you. You likely work far more hours than your hunter-gatherer ancestors did. You have refrigeration, transportation, modern medicine, and machines that do in seconds what used to take days of physical labor. By every measure of technological capability, you should have more free time than a forager in the Kalahari 60 years ago. Yet somehow you don't. Why does more efficiency keep producing more work instead of more rest? Some economists call this the productivity paradox, the strange pattern where technological progress raises output without proportionally raising leisure time. Instead of converting efficiency into free hours, modern economies tend to convert it into higher expectations, more consumption, and more competition for status. It's the surplus problem again, just dressed in a suit. Once there is more than enough, someone starts keeping score. Think about what that means the next time you feel guilty for resting. That guilt is not some ancient survival instinct kicking in. It's closer to the opposite. For most of the time, humans have existed as a species. Rest was not earned, scheduled, or rationed. It was simply what happened once the necessary work was done, which was most of the day. So what did cavemen actually do all day? They gathered enough. They told stories under open sky. They taught children how to track, how to weave, how to recognize which plants would heal and which would kill. They argued, laughed, napped, and repaired tools they'd use again tomorrow. They lived inside long stretches of unstructured time that almost nothing in your calendar resembles. You wake up tired. You check your phone. You already have a list of things to do before the sun is even fully up. But maybe the exhaustion isn't proof that you're living the way humans always have. Maybe it's proof of everything that changed the moment someone decided 4 hours wasn't enough.